Hey everyone, this is Felicia with The Book is Done. Last review of the evening. I had to get these on my bookshelf. I couldn't look at them no more. So the last and final book that I am talking about this evening is Verity by the Coho, Colleen Hoover. I was told that a lot of people call her Coho, but I mean, it was the first book that I read of hers. So I'm kind of glad that it was, because from my understanding, the majority of the books that she reads are like romance books. I'm not a big romance person. If I'm in a feel for it, my go-to is Nicholas Sparks, or Barbara Delinsky, or, something of that nature, Danielle Steele, type thing. So, I'm kind of glad. This was definitely like a murder mystery. They call it a standalone romantic thriller. And there it goes with that whole romance suspense type thing. I'm not a fan, but at the same point in time, this book had enough suspense in it, enough thriller in it where I was just like, holy crap. Like if she has another book where it's a thriller book but less romance, like this book was almost a DNR for me because it was so much not even romance. Like I don't know where these people get this word from, smut. It just sounds dirty. It's just that's just me. But just a lot of sexual references, like getting into the details like of different parts and what's done. And again, I'm okay with it. I'm not super sensitive to it. Like I'm not ashamed to say it. Like years and years ago, not that it was intentional, but like the books that I read were like borderline X-rated. You know what I mean? Like it got down to all of the details of what was going on. By the time you finished reading a chapter, you were so hot and bothered. You were just like, whew, where's Bay? Where's Bay? But I mean, I can handle it. I can handle the explicit details, if you will. But again, if it's a murder mystery, like that's just like James Patterson, who is my all-time favorite author. I will be devastated if I'm reading the Alex Cross series or a book within the Alex Cross series book, or even Dan Brown, the Da Vinci Code. You just in the height of the book, you trying to figure out what's going on, who was murdered, what's the next tip of what's going on. Oh, and they took my clothes off. Like, don't nobody want, I don't want to read that. I need to get to the next tip. I need to know who the murderer is. I need to know where the next scene is, whatever the case may be. So with Verity, that's my little rant with that. Verity triggers. If there are any I would say, because like I said, this was almost a DNR for me, but not because of the romance stuff, but because of like what all was in the book. And I don't want to say that it's a strong trigger, but it's a big enough trigger. So perinatal disease, any prenatal, disease where it's talking about, perinatal psychosis or postpartum psychosis, or, anything dealing with a woman having or going through the motions of childcare, not even childcare, childbearing or being pregnant, anything in dealing with that process. I would say that a very, very, very strong trigger is like child abuse. Huge trigger of child abuse. It's heavy in there, but it's not so much to the point where it's just like, oh, I'm not going to read it because of that. I truly believe that the character in this book, whose name is Verity. Verity is the character. She's the main character of the book. I definitely felt like she was suffering from postpartum at times psychosis, postpartum depression. So I don't want to say that like it's this huge disease. There's nothing wrong with that. If someone is suffering or feel like they are experiencing that, please go and speak to someone. There is help for those who need it, or those who are seeking it, or those who just have thoughts about it. If you need help with it, I have plenty of information about that. I'll be more than happy to give it to you. Just either send me a DM, or not even a DM, send me a message, or you can email me at thebookisdone@gmail.com. I will respond, but there is help. Total sidebar there. But in all things, this book was good. It was good. I will give it like a strong 4.5, seriously. If it wasn't for those triggers and just the whole romance of it all, I would have gave it a 5 with exclamation points. But it starts out the book. The main character's name is Lowen. She is a struggling writer. She was a caregiver for her mother who had passed maybe like a few weeks ago, maybe a few months before the start of this book. And she was on the way to a meeting about, because she's a writer. She's a published, acclaimed author. And she was on her way to a meeting, and she had experienced this person being killed, like right in front of her, like hit by a bus, a city bus at that. I don't know if they were getting ready to start walking across the street, but in all things, it happened in front of her face, so close where it was like blood splattered on her face, matter in her hair, in her clothes, on her clothes. And there was this gentleman whose name is Jeremy, and he just so happens to be there as well because he was on his way to a meeting as well. Lo and behold, Jeremy is the husband of Verity. Had no idea. It wasn't until they got into the meeting where Lowen comes in, and with her agent, comes in, sits down. They have to sign this non-disclosure agreement, and Jeremy comes in, and she's like, what the crap is going on? So finds out that Jeremy is the husband of Verity. Verity was in this really bad accident where she's no longer able to write, and they are seeking someone to finish Verity's work, series of books. I am so sorry. I don't know what is going on with my nose. I don't know why my nose is itching. I don't know. But in all things, so long story short, Lowen accepts the offer and writing these books. And Jeremy is like, if you would like, truly believe, like I highly suggest that you come out to the house. Everything is in her study, in Verity's study, with all of her work and things of that nature. I don't go in there because when she gets into the zone, she gets into the zone. So Verity, like, that was in her going to this meeting. That was the first time that she had left the house or the apartment since her mother died. She hadn't written anything, so she was like late on all of her bills, soon to be evicted type thing. And she was like, I really don't want to go out here, because it was Jeremy, Verity, and their son, who was 5. And Jeremy discloses that, they were going through grief. They had lost their twin daughters about 6 months apart from each other, who was older than the son who is remaining. And so, he's going through his own thing and things of that nature. And so, Lowen gets to the house. She sees Verity. She doesn't really meet her because Verity is like nonverbal. She's just distant. It's like she was there in the house, but she wasn't. It didn't seem like there was any life in her. And so, Verity, I don't know why I want to keep saying Verity. Lowen goes into the office, goes into the study where all of her work is, and she is just like, this is greatness, because she's read Verity's work. Verity is like top notch, top of the game. Like, she's been in it 20 years. Like, she She's the GOAT, just like James Patterson, Mary Higgins Clark, Danielle Steele, Typefield, Stephen King. Like, they've been in the game 20, 30 years, 40 years. And so Verity is up there with all of them. And so Lowen is just like, I'm not Verity. I've only written one book that, got a good, decent bit of exposure. I'm not on the level of Verity. So she goes into Verity's study. She finds all of this stuff. She comes across this manuscript that hasn't been published yet. And lo and behold, it's telling, I guess you could say, the life story of Verity, and how her and Jeremy met, and just it was just setting the pace for Lowen and just getting a feel. Now, mind you, Jeremy has no idea of this manuscript. He's never read this manuscript. In a sense, it's like a journal. It's like Verity's journal of her life. And so that's all I'm gonna say. Gave you the 50% of the foundation of the book. But oh man, of course, with the romance, I don't want to give it away, but Lowen and Jeremy, Jeremy's lonely, because Verity is just, she's, not to say she's in a vegetative state, but she is just not, it's like she is like a shell of a body, if you will. Like she's there, but she's not there. And so Jeremy and Lowen, they start something, and trying to creep and all this kind of stuff, because their son, not their son, Jeremy and Verity's son, is like 5 years old at this point. When the twins died, I want to say they were like 8 or 9 years old, maybe 10. But they were all young. And this happened like months before he met Lowen. And so when Lowen's mom died a few months ago, that's when the second twin died, like same time. So they're both dealing with grief. They both end up being with each other. And that's all I'm gonna say about that. So this book, Colleen Hoover, oh my gosh, I was actually gifted 2 of her romance books, Ugly Love and It Ends With Us. And if those 2 books, I haven't read them before, if those 2 books are as detailed and just as raunchy as this particular book, I don't want to read it. I have no desire whatsoever to read those books. Like I said, if it's romance, it's a time and a place for romance for me. And right now, I'm just in the zone of psychological thrillers. So, if she has another book that comes out that is just solely mystery, I will go and get that book so quick. I'm looking up another book now that she and Colleen Hoover, who is actually getting ready to release here soon. Let me see. This particular book is called Too Late. So I don't know. I don't know what the deal is. I don't know what the deal is with this particular book. I need to actually read it and see what it is. Oh Lord, okay. So this one is not a thriller. Oh snap. So from what they're saying, it's very traumatic to read. It's not for young people. So I don't know I don't know, the cover, just sometimes simple covers just pulling me in. But in all things, I'm not a huge Colleen Hoover fan. Like I said, this book was good. It really was good. And no disrespect to the Coho fans. But Verity was Verity was a really good mystery book. Again, if they took out the whole romance of it all, I'd be on board and read all of her books. Like, really good stuff. But Verity, you have to go check it out. Super good book. It's worth a read. It's definitely worth a read. You definitely have to make sure you have a strong wit about you, because there are a good bit of books, especially if you have a soft spot for children, or if you have a child or children. You may want to think twice about reading it because it could be triggering from a parental standpoint. But at the same point in time, you know, hey, we just have to see what happens. And so in all things, that particular book is done. I don't know if it's going to stay on the bookshelf. Like I said, I really like it, but I think that may be going back to the bookstore too. So that book is done. Verity by Colleen Hoover is done. The book that I am currently reading, and this is like one of 6, don't judge me, but this one, I'm kind of late to the party. The Fun House by Dean Koontz. I'm in this psychological thriller book club, if you will, of people, and they had a post that said, what is like the scariest book that you've ever read? And I seen a lot of posts that people said, The Fun House by Dean Koontz. So I was just like, I'm gonna have to try it out. Someone else had mentioned to me Life Expectancy, that was a good book as well. So far, I am like, I'm trying my best not to read this book in one setting, because it is just, it grips you, and it's just like, oh snap, like we just starting out like this? Okay, cool. So I'm reading The Fun House. I'm reading Creep. I'm actually going to start that maybe tonight, maybe tomorrow, I don't know. But Creep by Jennifer Hillier. And I am reading, sorry if you think it's on my bed, Keep It in the Family by John Mars. I just started that. Really good, maybe like the other day. That's going to be a good book. I can just, whew, I had to take a breath when I finished reading the first chapter. So that's going to be a good book. Another book that I am reading is called The Defense by Steve Kavanaugh. I think it's called Vince, not Vince Flynn, but it could be the name of the character. It's a series. It's the first book of a series that he has of this particular ex-con turned lawyer. So that particular book is good as well. After I finished that second and third chapter, I was like, ooh, I need to take a breath. So a lot of good books that are being read. I have so many books that I'm reading. I'm trying my best not to buy any more, because my to-be-read pile has literally doubled, if not tripled, within the last 6 months. So, and I was just given 2 books earlier today to read and review. So super busy over here. Wish I was getting paid to do this, because I absolutely love to do this. But in all things, you know, maybe one day, who's to say? But again, this is Felicia with The Book Is Done. Happy reading. Have a good evening. It is Sunday, June 26th, June 25th. So more than likely, I may not have another video before the end of the month, which is on Friday. But in all things, I will definitely be back more than likely on July 1st. This is Felicia with The Book Is Done, and I'm out. Have a good evening, y'all. Bye.